Hey guys, it's Ted Boger, the TED Show, and this series is just amazing with the one and only David Hennessey. We're talking about all things from reducing stress to increasing happiness to how getting sleep, how sleep actually reduces your stress, which is kind of our focus today. This is an ongoing series. David is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to all of those things, and we're just very happy to have him on with thewondertechnique.com, which we have scrolling across the bottom there. David, welcome back.
Thank you, Ted, and welcome to everybody else who's tuning in again or for the first time. Thank you for your time.
Very excited to have you. All right, so we took a deep dive, a little bit of a deviation from what we originally talked about last time, but there were so many positive comments that we just kept right on going. So we have the 19 steps, but today we're going to focus on sleep. So before you jump into that, just tell them a little bit about the Wonder Technique, and so that they know where to go. I have the website scrolling, and just a teeny bit of background about you, and then we'll take a deep dive.
Okay. Thank you, Ted. For those people listening that haven't heard about the Wonder Technique before, it is a holistic personal development program. And the key to the whole idea of being holistic is that there's a whole lot of ideas contained inside the Wonder Technique. We're going to talk today about why we sleep and why sleep is important to manage our stress, to improve our creativity. There's many, many different parts of the Wonder Technique. And my goal is to help people see how things come together, that things are not exclusive, that meditation is not sufficient, that getting exercise is not sufficient, but that everything together works to make us healthier. And the history, the Wonder Technique's been going around now for 20 years. 20 years ago is when I started it. So it's into its young adult years, as I like to say. No longer a teenager. So it's getting wiser and developing along. And there we go.
That. All right. So we had so many comments last time about, wow, that's great information. I think that there are so many nuggets contained in the information. So guys, we have our usual time, and then we're going to continue this series until David and I get to a point where we're like, all right, I think we've disseminated the information. Today, we're going to focus on sleep. Now, anybody who knows me knows I usually post some insomnia humor thing at night on Facebook. I have to do something to keep myself occupied. I have begun to get into a better sleep pattern. Thank God for that. But I know the importance of it. And every study known to man says that sleep is just a critical part of your overall health regime, both physical, mental, soulful, spiritual, all of those things. So we're going to listen to David and let him kind of elaborate and expand on that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ted. And to share with everybody listening, 20 years ago when I created the Wonder Technique, there was very little research about the importance of sleep that exists nowadays. And I had a feeling that there's something magical about sleep, but no research to really read that was really as deep as there is nowadays. But some of the reasons I want to share with you today, we talked a lot about last time, Ted and I and everybody listening, about stress management. And in fact, one of the greatest ways that you can manage stress is to have a good night's sleep. And I want to share with you today reasons why we sleep for some people that are not familiar with some of the scientific reasons that are really important for us, and then give you an overview of steps you can actually take, actionable steps to improve your sleeping environment. And as I mentioned to Ted yesterday, I created what I call a sleeping sheet. It's kind of like a little bit of humor there. It's a sheet with 10 tips on it. Yeah, you don't put it on you when you're going to sleep. It'd be too small. But what you do is these 10 steps are available to anybody that they can kind of use it as a checklist until they actually make the habits that will help their sleeping environment be better. Because knowing why it's important is one thing, and then taking action is a separate step. Correct. So just to share with some people listening might be familiar with what's called our lymphatic system. And our lymphatic system rolls around inside our body, which is where the white cells are, which helps cleanse our body. But I believe it was around 2000, it was only in the last 20 years that they came up with information with regards to what's called our glymphatic system. Now, the glymphatic system is the system in our body that cleans the brain out when we sleep. So when we're sleeping, the garbage people are out there cleaning out all the information, the cells that are dead and everything that we don't need to have in our brains. And this is named after the glial cells, which are in our brain. So we not only have a lymphatic system, but we also have a glymphatic system. So this is something that only operates when we're asleep. So if you're looking for motivation as to why to sleep, that could be the first one that you can mark down. The second thing is that when we're awake right now, and hopefully most of you that are listening are awake, and I'm doing my best here, is the whole idea that we are receiving information all the time. We're in the receptive mode. But then when we go into sleep, and you will notice that I really try to make this in simple language so that you can share, those of you listening, with somebody else, no matter what age they are, very simple terms. Most people know the idea that we have REM sleep, rapid eye movement, and that we have non-REM sleep. So we have wake, when we're awake right now. The first part of our cycle of sleep, even though we do cycle through several stages, is non-REM sleep and REM sleep. Now, there's a beautiful way of describing this that I picked up from Matthew Walker, which is the idea that non-REM sleep is when our brain takes what's happened during the day and starts to put it into memory. Okay, starts to organize it. So this would be a reason why you would want to sleep. Why is it that human beings, why is it that we cannot hack it out of our system? Because it's a lot of functionality, right? It helps us. Now, the next step, the REM sleep, is even more important, because REM sleep is when our brain integrates the memories and kind of organizes them in the closet. One kind of just throws all the stuff in the closet, shall we imagine? Like, there's all the clothes, they're washed. But the second
Yes,
step,
I could scan to my closet right now. I understand the whole thought process.
Okay. Now, the REM sleep is when everything gets organized. And now the REM sleep, if you're looking for motivation as to why you would want to have REM sleep, it is a part of our sleep cycle where we go through a process where we can impact our ability to solve problems. It's very much in an abstract mode, because the REM cycle is very different from the non-REM cycle. So giving you a little bit of motivation there as to why you'd want to sleep. I also want to share with you a couple of things as to how you can damage your sleep in case you're not aware of it.
Yes, please, because I think a lot of people will tell you, I'm sure anybody who's tuning in, they either have a hard time falling asleep, a hard time staying asleep. The first thing that most people do when they wake up and they can't go back to sleep is they reach over on the bedside table and grab their smartphone or whatever is next to their bed.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know these are bad things, but we probably need another lesson in them.
Okay, now I'm actually going to mention something that's in addition to that. Is that you've probably heard in the past people always saying, well, to help me sleep better, I have a little glass of alcohol or something. They call it the nightcap before going to sleep.
Yes.
This is actually a massive no to do that. Why actually? And I'm not going to, I'm not here to please people. I'm here to do my best to try and help people.
I love it.
Because the alcohol interrupts your REM sleep. It's that simple. Your ability to have that full integration, organize stuff in the closet, right? To have rebuilding of all the patterns inside your brain, plus other stuff that's going on physiologically, is impacted by the presence of alcohol. You also have to remember, physiologically, when we sleep, our body goes through a detoxification. Like, this is when our liver's doing all the work. It's cleaning up.
God bless my liver.
Yeah, our livers do. I mean, you know what? It's good that we don't have control over our bodies, because you know what? I might wake up in the morning and forget to turn the liver on. So it's like there's amazing things that are going on in our bodies all the time. So alcohol interrupts our ability to have REM sleep. So, and I won't go into it today, but if those people are interested, the impact of alcohol on unborn babies and all those sort of things, there is a lot of research out there right now. Yeah. So if you're wondering about that, I would recommend that you look for that information and go deep into it. The second thing is I want to mention to people is about, people are quite familiar with this, but just to look at the idea of caffeine. There's some really interesting impact on your ability to sleep. And one way to understand it is that when we wake up in the morning, we have a chemical called adenosine that starts to get produced. And as it builds up during our waking hours, adenosine creates what we call sleep pressure. Okay, which is like the buildup of the desire, the physiological desire for sleep. And as we get to roughly to about 16 hours in the day, so let's say potentially, you feel like, I'm really tired, I need to go to sleep. However, if you drink coffee, pardon me, not coffee, if you take something with caffeine, let's put it that way, because there's lots of things that have caffeine inside of it. This will block your sensation of the buildup of sleep pressure, the adenosine. Now, how
That's
you can feel
interesting.
this is when you drink the coffee, and as the coffee starts to be brought out of your system, the caffeine is broken down out of your system by your liver, okay, by your body. All of a sudden, you feel like you've hit the wall of exhaustion as the caffeine dissipates. That's because the adenosine was still building up, and it was hidden behind this door, which was the caffeine. The
Oh,
caffeine's gone away, and boom, you're like, oh my God, I feel exhausted. So that's why we feel that feeling. So most of you listening, if you're taking the time, you take a look and say, I can identify with that. And that's why we all of a sudden start to crash. There's a physiological reason for that. And this is one of the things
that's
that's,
why. Okay,
yeah,
because I think a lot of people, you hear that, you just need a caffeine pick me up in the afternoon or
yeah,
late afternoon, and then all of a sudden when that wears off, you are in crash mode. What's
yes.
the time frame like? And if you
This is a
don't
good
know this,
question. Very good
because
question.
I think that people are like, well, I only drink coffee at, the last one I have is 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something.
Okay,
That's their normal pickup time.
for
But it
sure.
can last for a long time, right? The
Yes, let's
impact.
talk about that. And for those people who are watching this is water. It's not coffee because it is evening
Fine, it's
time where I
not
am.
water, but we're gonna go with it.
Okay, I always know. I just think people are going, he's drinking a bottle of coffee. No, okay, for in terms of it, the half-life, the chemical breakdown of caffeine is roughly between 5 to 7 hours, which means if you took in 50 grams of caffeine, in 5 to 7 hours, there's still 25 grams rolling around your body.
Wow.
Now, some people, Ted, and for those of you listening, they break down caffeine quicker than other people. So that's something, that's the individual basis. But for people to be aware of that, it might be the reason why they're not going to sleep easily. Not the actual reason, it just might be. And being aware of that feeling when you hit that wall, I'm like, well, what's happened here? This is what I want to bring to people's attention is that there's something is amazing. So it's really to know about those impacts is important. The second thing I want to share with people is that we do have our chronotypes that are individual to us. And now I see a lot of stuff on, for example, on the professional network that I'm part of, LinkedIn, and people do talking about, I get up first thing in the morning, I get up at 5 o'clock and, join my team. We're all going to do this. However, and this is really important for people to know, and I don't believe you and I have talked about this before, Ted, but I've shared it before, is that in our chronotypes, we have, it's pretty much like a template in our body how we function. About approximately 40% of the people have a chronotype, which means they can get up early in the morning. They wake up
I do
early.
not have that.
Okay, so you're not there. Now, there's two more categories, and you can see where you fit in. There's another group of people, which we call night owls, about 30% of the population, where they're up till all hours of the morning, but you couldn't drag them out of a bed in the early part of the day. That's part number two. And number three, and there's actually for those people who want to contact me, or maybe I can send it to you, to Ted, and you can share it, is there's a test you can do to see where you are, because there's a third one, which I fit in that category, is that you're in the middle. You kind of roll between both of them. And when I've taken this online quiz that you can do, Ted, it shows you where you are. Now, you probably already kind of know, I'm a night owl, I'm a morning lark, or maybe I'm in between. But this is really important for people to identify, because some people think, what's wrong with me? I can't work like other people in the work environment. I'm fatigued like crazy in the morning, but I'm full of energy in the afternoon. And what's sad about this is that our school system does not acknowledge this. Like, one last thing for those people who are listening, potentially if there's teenagers listening, to know that there's nothing wrong with you, because I'm going to share something with you in a moment. And people who have teenagers wondering what's going on with these guys, they don't want to get out of bed in the morning and they stay up really late. That's because there's a shift in our chronotype as a teenager. Now, I have children that are teenagers, so I see that they just don't want to. But you see, the school says get up early and finish earlier. But this doesn't work for them. And then, generally speaking, I'm not a scientist. I just share with the information that I've learned, is that shifts then later on in our lives. So for those of you who are thinking, why am I fatigued? You might want to look at A, am I drinking alcohol in the evening? B, what am I doing with the caffeine in my body? How often is that possible impact? C, where would I fit within inside the chronotypes? And once
So
again,
before you move, we have a
yep,
question.
yeah,
Sarah says or a statement, and what I think a lot of people feel this way. I feel like I have to have coffee in the morning, and if I don't, I'm literally tired all day.
okay,
Right?
and
I think people feel like they have to have the coffee
okay,
first thing in the morning. My wife's just like Sarah, and I
yeah,
mean, if they don't, Stacy will say she feels like she's dragging. It's dragging
okay.
along.
This is a very good question, and there's two answers to that. The one of the answers is it may be psychological, habitual. So you can test that out and see, really, is it possible that if you didn't have a coffee today, Sarah, and you didn't have a coffee tomorrow, you're going to go through the trenches for a little bit, but then you might feel that it's not as bad as I thought it would be. That's one thing. The second thing is it could be that you just are not getting enough sleep, and your body really, if you wake up in the morning and you actually really need to have a coffee before, say, 11 o'clock, assuming you're getting up in the morning, or you feel like you need to go for a nap, it's clearly a sign that you haven't had enough sleep. Sorry to say that, but I you know what? I'm not trying to please. I'm trying to give you the
No,
information.
I think people feel that way. I
Yeah.
feel like people really do hit these walls, and
Hmm.
I think it does all go back to the quality of the sleep that you're getting, and
Yes.
it's not an easy, like, sometimes there's an old wives' tale. Maybe it's not an old wives'
Hmm.
tale, which somebody asked. If I take a nap in the afternoon, though, am I going to ruin my entire sleep pattern?
Okay, I will answer that or touch on that right now, and then I'm going to go into sharing things that can help people get better sleep.
Perfect.
Because as Ted knows, I'm Irish, and you know what, the genetic problem of talking too much is still with me. So
We're
to
paying
keep
attention
myself
to time.
framed,
You're golden. You're golden.
okay. For some people, I mean, some cultures still actually nap in the afternoon. Okay, and it's very rare because it's not always permitted. And in fact, I remember reading research that in Greece, people that used to sleep in the afternoon, when they stopped napping in the afternoon, there was a radical increase in health problems. Okay, so one of the things that some people do, you had a comment there, somebody said about napping.
Yeah, Rose. Sarah said I probably get too much sleep. Rose said I love power naps over a caffeine rush. I
Brilliant.
feel
This is
better.
brilliant. Some people, I mean, I can do that. When my children were young, I trained myself to have like a power nap.
You
So
had to,
because you
right?
do
It
have,
was
yeah,
survival.
yes, you do have this natural cycle where in the afternoon we have that drop between approximately 2 and 4. Let's give it that range, or 1 to 3. So you feel that drop, and a lot of people, they will use something, they'll inject themselves with some version of caffeine to get themselves going. But you can go through that cycle potentially by a nap, or potentially by doing something where you're moving around, where your body passes through it. But when you're trying to do something that's, mentally taxing, you feel like you're going to crash. So with regards to what you mentioned about the napping, for some people this works. And I don't think we're going to have time to go too deep into it, Ted. But for some people, if they're having a problem sleeping at night, this is not a good idea. For some people, it's good. Like I can power nap and it works good for me. But if I was having a problem going to sleep at night, I wouldn't nap in the afternoon, because you want to build up that adenosine. So that adenosine needs to build up, and you're going to let go some of that, as I mentioned before, to sleep pressure. Now, to go into some of the ideas here that's going to help people in the
Yes,
time that we have
let me
left.
get off my tangents and let you speak.
Okay, and I will share this little document so people can be familiar with it if I can properly
Sure.
share this here.
I think sleep
When
is so important, and we just don't. There's so much information out there, and yet we don't want to adhere to it, or we think
uh,
this is just how I am.
yes,
And a lot of times, okay, here it comes. I'm going to put it up for us.
just for people to see, anybody can request a copy of this at no charge for me. The sleeping room checklist, the sleeping sheet, as I like to call it. And it's designed actually for you to print off, because I don't want people looking at their phone in the late evening. Okay. And what you can do what you want to do, but I'm just suggesting it. So I'm going to stop sharing for that and talk about some of those tips. So
I'm ready.
okay,
Tips are
so
good.
let's go into this here. One of the first things that you can do is make sure as you go into bed, into your rooms at night, is actually the last one on that checklist, but I'll go through right away, is to create a routine, my friends. If your body mentally and physically has a routine that says, okay, I'm going to slow down, I'm going to start to go to sleep, This is really important. For some people, maybe they organize their clothes for the next day. For some people, they may comb their hair. There's something that's an action that they take. They clean their teeth that starts to tell the body, okay, we're moving towards sleep time. And having a routine where you go to bed at the same time each night, not talking about the actual time itself, but having a routine where it's a regular schedule helps your cycle to help you get to sleep better. Now, as you move towards going to bed, a very good tip would be to have your bedroom environment where it's low light, in other words, not high bright lights, and if possible, would be towards red light as against bright lights, blue light. Now, for example, people might say that's difficult, but I actually have a light here, and I'm going to show it here. People say that's actually a red light. It's a camping light. They're really inexpensive because some people think they have to buy some highfalutin thing. But if I woke up in the night and had to do something, I would use this light. Okay, so it's a red light, and that doesn't stimulate your brain the same way and shut off the melatonin, which helps keep everything in the sleep cycle going.
Is that why when we turn that light, like we pull up our phones immediately? I've read somewhere, and you can elaborate if you have time, that
Yes.
that will just immediately trigger and wake the brain up, wake everything up. Is that
This
true?
is actually, let's say it used to be true from the research, but there's some recent research that came out. It's not just the blue light for those people listening, because this could be quite intriguing. It's because the brain gets stimulated like crazy because there is an attachment, like a Pavlovian reaction to your phone. There's all these things going on. This is what's getting the brain alert, and you want the brain to calm down. It's not just the blue light, and may not even be so much the impact of the blue light. It may be the association between the stimulation, and then that gets worse if you look at the phone and you start to read things. Okay, so this is something for people to be aware of, is the actual, it's the reaction of ourselves. It's like if you use your phone first thing in the morning, you're anticipating something, you're using your phone as an alarm, or you're thinking, oh, maybe I won't wake up. You're setting yourself up for for having a less deep sleep, let's put it that way, because there's something that's going on. Okay, so a couple of more ideas to share with people. I would say, from what I've read, before you go to bed, do your best not to eat, say 2.5 hours before you go to sleep. Digestion doesn't work so good when you're lying down flat. That's one quick tip. If you watch the clock when you're lying in bed thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not going to sleep, hide the face of the clock. Really simple idea. The next thing
I got rid of my clock for that reason.
Yes.
I literally don't have a clock at my bed.
Perfect. Another thing is here, we really like to sleep in a dark environment because we're physiologically designed that way. Make the windows dark. If you have light coming in around the doorway because there's other people motoring around in where you're living, block out the light around the doors. If you're sleeping with somebody who stays awake a little bit later, whether they're reading a book or whatever they're doing, then you might need to get a mask to put on your eyes like on the airplane. You have to take care of yourself because it's really important that you have a good night's sleep. Couple of more quick tips here based upon the time we have. It's, let me see, 60 to 66 degrees Fahrenheit. The room temperature should be cool, not cold, but it should not be warm because our body physiologically, the onset of sleep, we like the cooler temperature. For those of you listening, if we were thinking about it in Celsius, it's about 16 to 17 degrees. Okay, that's important as well. These are all on that checklist, by the way. So people don't have to be scribbling this down here, just memorizing it.
And you can get the checklist on your website, yes?
Yes, for sure. I'll make sure that's very easy to get. And also make sure the environment is quiet. Some people think that, oh, there's a train goes by outside my window all the time and I'll get used to it. But in fact, I'm the kind of person that believes, no, your brain actually has to work on buffering that sound. So if there's a sound that's distracting you while you're trying to go to sleep, or if you wake up and it distracts you, somehow you've got to find a way to eliminate that sound. Now,
what about like sleep machines? We use like a sleep machine. It's allegedly has soft sounds. Is that disturbing my sleep? I have a hard time with the quiet.
Okay.
Because I hear everything.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of people have either sleep machines or they say they fall asleep with their TV on because they have to have noise. But in reality, that's not good.
I would say there's a distinctive difference between a TV, which would be more like looking at a screen, as against a sleep machine or something that's creating white sound or white noise in that for people. That could be a personal thing. What I'm hoping today, Ted, is to share with people things that they can do right away, because some people think I have to buy a sleep machine or I have to buy something like this. These are most things you can do manageable today before you
Yes.
go to sleep.
Agreed.
Another tip I would suggest to people is that, would you lie in bed and you have an idea pop up? It could be a great idea, something you want to do. Have a notepad and pen beside your bed, not the phone to note down on, and you scribble it down. And then you have maybe the red light, as I showed you, to kind of give you a little bit of light. If you wake up and think, gosh, I need to remember that. If you don't take it out of your mind and place it somewhere, you're going to have it ruminating and preventing you from going to sleep.
Yes.
And you know what? The challenge, the idea, whatever it is, I need to do X, Y, Z, good or positive, it'll still be there waiting for you in the morning. So if you write it down on a piece of paper beside your bed, this is a great way of taking some stress away from you and allowing you to sleep deeper. So there is lots more. Ted, you touched on stuff about different things that people can do that are, shall I say, related to apparatus and that. But I think that people need to kind of put these 10 steps in place first before they start investigating deeper, because a lot of people,
Yes.
they can be sleeping in a room that's too warm, in a room that has too much light, have no established routine. So their body really doesn't know where they're going at and why they're, slowing down. Sleep comes on slowly. It's not like a switch where I want to go to bed now, I need to go sleep, boom, it happens. It's not that simple. It's a slowing down. It is actually a cycle. It's a cycle in our body. It's a wave. Like digestion doesn't happen. You eat something, boom, it's done. No, everything has a gentle cycle. And that's what I really hope, and I appreciate your time, Ted, and everybody else listening, is to share that all of these things are integrated. The sleep, if you can sleep better, you will impact your memory. You will impact your creativity. You will impact your ability to manage stress. You will impact your ability to digest. There's all kinds of things that you can do.
Let me ask you about the stress real quick, because I know we're running out of time, but that was a question a couple of people had. Is there a correlation between that? Is there a correlation between lack of sleep or lack of quality sleep, however we phrase it, and your ability to handle the stresses that we normally go through during the day?
Yes.
I think people underestimate the power of sleep.
Yes.
I think most people want it. I don't think people go around going, I don't want sleep. I think they just don't know how to embrace it or figure out how to get it.
Yes.
In a way they don't know. So these 10 steps are a great place to start, because I think a lot of things that we do, a lot of habits that we have, a lot of old wives' tales we've lived our lives by aren't really working for us yet. We don't know where to revisit what we're doing. We don't know how to shift. And those 10 points there are going to be awesome for people. All right. So how do people best reach you, my friend? What is the easiest way?
Okay, the simplest and easiest way, as I like to say myself, the secret is in the simplicity. thewondertechnique.com. That's where you're going to find me. You'll find the online personal development program is there. There's books I have on how to sleep well and wake up energized. And there's an e-course attached to that where you'll get to hear me, see me, and then have notes in that. And it's all there. They'll find me that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Guys, reach out to David. He's so accessible. The Wonder Technique is a great way. If you connect with him, follow him on LinkedIn, you can message him, reach out to him, because he is a wealth of knowledge. We're going to continue this series. I don't know exactly what we'll talk about next time, but we're going to talk about something to reduce your stress and increase your happiness overall. And sleep is definitely a way to do that. So thank you so much for imparting your wisdom and sharing. I learned a lot today.
Thank you, Ted. And thank you for all those people that commented and listening in and taking part of your day. I appreciate that very much.
All right. Thanks, David. From France.
Thank you.